Everyone, I'm here with a book review. I am reviewing today Year of the Witch by Temperance Alden, Connecting with Nature's Seasons Through Intuitive Magic. So I'm going to give you my honest opinion about this. You know that when I review things, if I think it's great, I'll tell you. And if I don't think so, I'll tell you that as well. I did not like this book. So I had high hopes for this book, and I really, really wanted to like it. So first of all, I'd seen it floating around on social media. I'd heard people say good things about it. It has an endorsement on the back by Matt Aarn, who wrote Psychic Witch, which is a book that I love. And I thought, yeah, I'll give this a go. I have two major issues with this book. So I'm going to get into that. First of all, the cover is really beautiful, aesthetically wise. It's got some nice little illustrations in it. It looks like a pretty quick read because it's only about 180 pages or so. So I thought, yeah, I'll give this book a read and then I'll give it a review. I wanted to like this book, but I did not. So two major problems with it. The first problem is it is not what it advertises. So and this may not be the author's fault. This could be marketing by, who is this? This is Wiser Books. So it could be the fault of marketing, to be fair, but it's billed as a book to help you to design your own wheel of the year, to help you to adjust the wheel of the year to your part of the world. But that's a small part of this book. So the first part of this book is her talking about things like how she feels about gardening and connecting with nature spirits and the local nature spirits in your area, and using your intuition and magic, and using magic that is, or ingredients, pardon me, for spells and things that you find around the house, and not spending a ton of money, which, that part I do agree with, but some of her opinions on witchcraft. And so we don't actually get into the Year of the Wheel until here, over halfway through the book. And then the part about making the wheel of the year your own is the last few pages of the book. So it's not as advertised. I would have much preferred this book, I think, if the whole thing was about the wheel of the year and not a bunch of other stuff, because the way that it was marketed, that's what I was expecting out of the book. And the way she divides the wheel of the year, she does like a chapter on each of the 8 traditional Sabbats. And then she talks a bit about, kind of making the wheel of the year your own, which I do agree with totally. I totally agree with that part of the book. So just to give you kind of a breakdown of how the book is organized, she talks about intuitive witchcraft, using your intuition. She talks about cycles and seasons, and I'm going to get into that. Elemental magic, shepherding the land, which is all about environmentalism or looking after the land. The gates of witchcraft, which is kind of about gatekeeping to a certain degree. It's about you don't need all the fancy tools to do this, and I agree with that. The origins of the wheel of the year, and then it gets into the different Sabbats, and then making the wheel of the year your own. So a good chunk of the book is kind of about other things rather than just the wheel of the year. And again, that could be the fault of marketing. And the problem with that is that this book comes off as very rambly because she's kind of touching on all these different subjects, and so it seems to lack focus. The other thing too is, honestly, I don't think the writing is very good. It is all over the place. It is scattered, because one chapter she's talking about gardening, and then the next chapter she's talking about how she went to Ireland and she felt connected to the land of her ancestors, and she devoted herself to the Irish sea god. And I'm not sure what that has to do with the wheel of the year. I don't think there's anything wrong with those subjects, but they seem like separate subjects from what I was expecting out of this book. So I had that issue with it. It was rambly. It wasn't quite what I expected. Also, the writing is kind of rambly. And honestly, like, this is a 180-page book. It shouldn't take me long to read. And I kind of struggled to get through it just because I didn't find the writing very engaging. And maybe that's just me personally, but I was just like, okay, I was reading it out of a sense of duty to be able to review the book, not out of a sense of enjoyment. And that's always like, that's not so good when you're doing that. I think that this book is also sort of marketed as being a bit of a beginner book. I don't have anything against beginner books, because Psychic Witch by Matt Aaron is billed as a beginner book, and I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I thought it was great. I just started reading Rebel Witch by Kellyanne Maddox, which also could be seen as a beginner book. And I mean, I've only started it, but so far I'm enjoying it. Because sometimes people have a different perspective, or they remind you of things, or they just look at it in a different way. And I'm always open to willing to learn things. So I have nothing against reading a beginner book, especially when it's well written and it's good. And then I can tell people like, hey, here's a book. And I love reading books where it's like, I wish I had this back in the 90s. I love those kind of books. But this is not one of them. And then I had issues with some of the content of this book. So I flagged them, and I'm going to get into them. And I thought it was just me. And then I looked at some other people's reviews, and I saw it was not just me. So the first one is in the part about seasonal cycles. So she talks a little bit about the cycle of the seasons and how it's different in different parts of the world. Totally fine. Talks a little bit about seasonal cycles as far as the El Nino and El Nino cycles, which is a weather cycle caused by oceanic currents. So she talks about that. And then she says this. I'm going to read it to you. There are a number of scientists who believe that due to the Milankovitch cycles, these are the long-term cycles of climate. Global warming theory is actually a series of events that takes place every few thousand years and cannot be prevented. This argument posts that due to these factors of eccentricity, axial tilt, and precession, humans have little influence over the current cycle the Earth is going through. That sounds like climate change denial in a book that's supposed to be about like honoring the Earth. Yes, there are long-term cycles of climate. We've seen that go up and down with ice ages. But that is in complete denial of how fast and quickly the overall temperature of this climate has gone up. And we know that that's caused by human activity. I'm very concerned that there's climate change denial in this book. And it makes me suspicious of other things she cited in this book. And that was pretty soon into the book. And right away I was like, red flag, climate change denial. And I'm seeing more of that, unfortunately, in the witchcraft and spiritual community, is this very anti-science kind of attitude. And that's concerning in a book that's marketed to beginners. And then I'm going to tell you about the next thing that also concerned me. So she's talking about human cycles. And I mean, of course, we go through cycles. We're young, teenager, adult, older, death. Of course, we all go through those cycles. She talks about birth control. And this is another attitude I've seen in the witchcraft community that I find to be very concerning. So she talks about how she says she was on birth control for 10 years and that she started to get headaches, and so she stopped. And that's fine. Not everybody has a good reaction to birth control, right? Then I'm going to read you this. I was so willing to trade the power and sanctity of my period for the convenience of clear skin that for over a decade I took pills that stunted my natural magic. Okay. First of all, medication does not inhibit your magic. Let's repeat that again. Medication does not inhibit your magic. I find this also to be extremely concerning. People take birth control for a variety of reasons. They take it for health reasons. they take it because they don't want to have a baby when they're young or whenever. Personally, I've been on birth control for 30 years, and I will tell you, it does not stunt my magic in any way. People have all sorts of reasons why they use birth control. And lately I've been seeing more of this anti-birth control message within the spiritual community, and I find it to be extremely concerning, as well as the anti-medication message. Now, she hasn't said anything else in this book, to be fair, about medication. But that idea that a medication could stunt your natural magic is extremely concerning to me. And when you're marketing this to beginners, I just find that really troubling. First of all, birth control, I feel like the younger generation does not appreciate how important birth control has been for the advancement of women and their rights. The ability to make choices about when you will have children or if you will have children is so important to women being able to control their lives. And again, people take birth control for a variety of health reasons. And so you can't judge that. And if someone doesn't want to take hormonal birth control, that's fine too. It's your body and your life. And that is the important thing about it, is being able to choose those things. I also find this like a little concerning because there's some contradictions in this book, I have to say, about, she says one thing and then says another. And yeah, I'm just very concerned about this. I don't know what else to say. Medication of any kind does not stunt your magic, whether that's hormonal birth control or any kind of medication. I've also seen that attitude about, taking medication for mental health issues, which again, she does not say in this book, to be fair, but that idea that any kind of medication could stunt your natural magic is garbage. Also, I have a concern about saying the power and sanctity of your periods. Come on, women are so much more than their hormonal cycles. If you think of your period as sacred, that's fine, but you don't have to. And there's lots of women who don't have periods. What about women who've had hysterectomies or are, older or trans or whatever? There's lots of women who don't have periods, and that doesn't make them your cycles and your life less sacred. So that concerned me. And then I had a third concern. So she's talking about gardening, and then she talks about 2 plants you can garden. And one of them that she mentions is cannabis. So, cannabis. Whatever your thoughts are on cannabis, it's interesting that she talks about a pill stunting your natural magic, and then she talks about growing cannabis, which is a medical plant, right? When a recreational plant, let's face it. I think it's a little bit irresponsible because in the United States, cannabis is illegal still in a lot of states. Not every state, and that is changing. But I don't think we should be, kind of recommending that when people could go to jail for it. A little concerned about that as well. Also, if you're worried about medication stunting your growth, cannabis, definitely can cloud some people's minds. Now, I personally don't use cannabis, but I'm not against people using it. If you want to use it for recreation, you want to use it for health reasons, especially if your doctor's prescribed it to you, of course, use it. You have chronic pain, of course, all that stuff. I just find it a bit, a bit contradictory after saying that other statement. So, in short, I would not recommend this book. I think she makes some good points in here about things like making the wheel of the year, for your own area and your own climate. But again, that's only the last few pages in the book. And the book, the way they market it is like that's the whole book. And so I was really disappointed in that. And I just can't recommend this book to you. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the Year of the Witch. Let me know what you think about these things. Anyway, that's my take. I will always give you my honest opinion on books. Next, I'm reading Rebel Witch, and I will let you know what I think about that one when I'm done reading it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. As always, peace and love and light.